All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, whose name is not God, but it is Yahweh. Yahweh means in the Paleo Hebrew that He exists, He is. All right, and His only begotten Son, whom this world ignorantly calls Jesus, His name is actually in the Paleo Hebrew, the original tongue. His actual name is Yahweh Shai. You see, Yahweh Shai. And Yahweh Shai simply means in the Paleo Hebrew that He saves and that He delivers. He is our Redeemer. He is often called the Redeemer in the scriptures because He redeems His people. So salvation is for the Israelites, which would be you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay, the apple of His eye, Yasharallah, Israel. And there are 12 tribes consisting of 12,000 men of each of the tribes that will be delivered. They will see salvation amongst the 1/3 part of Israel that are in truth, according to the scriptures, and that we can see scattered to the four winds or four corners of the earth as it is this day. So yes, Israel, aka Jacob, is scattered among all the nations. And some of us look like the other nations that we're scattered to. Some of us even speak their languages. So this is not a black Hebrew Israelite thing. All right. And so this 100% truth of the doctrine, that is the scriptures, including the Apocrypha, right, is what Great Millstone or GMS teaches. I'm just a listener, a follower. All right. So I do believe that the elder apostles of Great Millstone are the chief men of our nation, scattered to the four winds of the earth. And that this captivity that we are in America, aka biblically known as Babylon the Great, is in fact, in truth, our last captivity, pursuant to the Holy Scriptures. Now, I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, risking their life and freedom to do so on the highways and hedges, week in and week out, bringing out this truth, being instant in season and out of season. So no matter the weather conditions, the men of Great Millstone will be out there preaching this gospel, right, to the four winds of the earth, utilizing the unicorn, so the books are opened in the heavens, as it says in the scriptures, and the world is hearing this truth, but the world does not accept the truth. Only the 1/3 part of Israel, again, scattered to the four winds of the earth, can obtain the adoption or the election, as it were, set up by the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, and whom the same Yahweh Shai created the world and everything in it for Himself. All right, this is His dominion, ultimately. All right, so this is the book of Second Esdras, chapter 6, that I would like to go into to present. And Lord's willing, this is an edifying lesson. All right, so I'm gonna begin. Let's see, begin at 11, because Ezra is actually asking the Heavenly Father about certain things. All right, so let's go here. Let's go to verse 8. He answered, "The interval will be no longer than that between Abraham and Abraham." All right, so because Ezra is asking about the end times, right, and what that means spiritually, right? It says, the interval will be no longer than between Abraham and Abraham. He was the grandfather of both Jacob and Esau. All right, so you got to know that Jacob is Israel, and Esau represents the Edomites. Okay, so these are the twin brothers, right? Two separate nations, right? So Esau came out first, right? It says, and when they were born, Jacob was holding Esau's heel. So Esau is representing the foundation of this world, this current world that we live in now, an age, what we call an eon. Okay, so it represents an era. Okay, so in the grand scheme of things, it represents kind of an empire. So Esau is ruling the world. As the scriptures say, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, right? All right, so now you got to understand, it says Esau represents the end of this age, and Jacob represents the beginning of the new age. Okay, so the rulership is in the elite's hands right now. Okay, but it is a transitional period, whereas right after Esau's rule, Jacob is following Esau. because remember it says Jacob was holding Esau's heel. Now Esau represents the end of this age, and Jacob represents the beginning of the new age. So if Jacob's hand is the beginning, right, and Esau's heel is the end, do not try to find a space in between. It's going to be a transition, a swift transition. He said, Lord and Master, I said, please hear my request. On that night earlier, you showed me some of the signs of the end. Now, please show me the rest. Stand up, he said, and you will hear a very loud voice. Now, if the place where you are standing is violently shaken while the voice is speaking, don't be afraid. The message will be about the end of the world, and the foundations of the world will understand that the voice is speaking about them. So the voice symbolically and spiritually is the 144,000 hopeful elect men of the Lord in this present day, right? Namely Great Millstone, the elder apostles and bishops on down, including the affiliates that are speaking this 100% truth. That's the voice, because the prophets are the apostles of the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, are the mouthpiece of the Heavenly Father, right? Declaring his will. They are enlightened with the truth. They are the light that shines in darkness, right? That the darkness does not comprehend. But it says that the voice is speaking about them, the foundation, the wicked, right? It says they will tremble and quake because they know that they will undergo a change when the end comes. So they're going to change positions. So whereas now they're at the top, it seems like they will be at the bottom. They will be destroyed. Okay, so this is the spirit of prophecy, the testimony of Yahweh Shai. All right. So when he said this, verse 17, when he said this, I stood up and listened. I heard a voice that sounded like a roaring river. Remember, the voice of many waters, right? Waters represents what? Peoples. Okay. It says, let me read that again. When he said this, I stood up and listened. I heard a voice that sounded like a roaring river. All right. And it said, end quote, the time is near when I will come to judge the people living on the earth. All right. I will punish those who have hurt others with their injustice. All right. So if it sounds familiar, what is the injustice that's taking place on this earth? You know, it's almost, it's an incredible list, a laundry list even, of injustices that's taking place on this earth at the hands of Esau, the Edomites, the so-called YT man, and the chief families being the Amalekites, the small hats, who are rich and have lived deliciously, and whose desire is as hell. They have an insatiable appetite, and no matter who they hurt, you know, they must retain their rulership. I watched a movie last night, as a side note, on Winston Churchill, right? He was the Prime Minister of Great Britain at a time whereas Nazi Germany was about to take over their country, and Winston Churchill was like, man, do you want to see swastikas flying outside the parliament? You know, and then the king of Great Britain, he was afraid that he would have to rule in exile over in Canada somewhere outside of where he had his supposed throne. Okay, so Winston Churchill pretty much roused up the parliament, right, by going to the people of Great Britain and saying, well, you know, the people were saying, well, we will never bow to Nazi Germany. You know, basically they're saying that Winston Churchill was a racist in a way because he didn't want to give up Great Britain to Germany, okay, which were considered like a barbarous, wild people, okay. But nonetheless, you know, the message toward the end was that, you know, after 5 years of fighting, America stepped in as Winston Churchill kind of predicted, and they came in and they kind of, you know, got involved, and then World War II is said to have been won by the then newly formed NATO alliance, which is the North American Treaty Organization. Okay, so let me give you an image of that, what that looks like really quick. So there's the there is like a video I also watched. It was like a 10-minute documentary on the birth of NATO, right? So basically, it was to defend what they call Europe, which is actually Asia. I would say the west coast of Asia, and the islands in there, right? So Great Britain is like an island there, as you can see, right? So he was talking about defending the island, and the NATO alliance was basically a coalition of the United States, might be Canada in there, right? Because they represent the North Atlantic treaty organization. So they have a treaty amongst themselves to protect and defend their empire. You see that? So all these nations listed here they make up NATO, and the EU, which represents the 10 kingdoms. Back then they said it was, in the documentary, they said it was 12 nations, okay? And the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. So NATO and the EU, which is the European Union, represent the beast system, okay? Right? So they control that waterway called the Atlantic Ocean, okay? So I just want to give you a visual. So it says, verse 16, I'll go back to this. It says that the voice is speaking about them. That's NATO, the NATO, the beast, okay? They will tremble and quake because they know that they will undergo a change when the end comes. This is in the prophecies. The Lord spoke of these things because he created the world and everything in it for his purpose and for executing the will of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, right? Who gives him power. Okay, Yahweh Shai glorifies the Heavenly Father. So verse 17, when he said this, I stood up and listened, and I heard a voice that sounded like a roaring river. It said, the time is near when I will come to judge the people living on the earth. I will punish those who have hurt others with their injustice. Jerusalem's humiliation will come to an end. Who is Jerusalem? Jerusalem is Jacob's people, Israelites, the true Israelites, okay? Not those over there right now in the Levant and the so-called Israeli state. They are not the Jerusalem, okay? Some of them, like very few of them, actually descend from the 12 tribes, okay? Very few of them. So we're not going to say like all of them, because remember, we're scattered to the four corners of the earth. We're in all nations, okay? All right, so it says, and verse 20, and this age, which is about to pass away, will have the final seal put upon it. Then I will give the following signs. The books will be opened across the sky for all to see. Remember, going back to the unicorn, the satellites, the internet, okay? So the books are being opened, and the true Israelites, the true men of the Lord, are taken to the highways and hedges with an ensign lifted up, lifting up the standard, okay? The ensign being the 12 tribes of Israel chart, right? For the sealing of the election, right? As it is written, the books will be opened across the sky for all to see, right? Sky representing the sound waves, the internet, okay? The unicorn. Verse 21, children only a year old will speak. Pregnant women will give birth after only 3 or 4 months, and their premature babies will live and run about. All right, so now you have what they call incubator babies. Okay, so when I was young, when I was really little, and adolescent even, I saw some incubator babies firsthand. They were twins, and I never forget, they were little. They were Jake children, they were Israelites, and they were about 3 months, 3 to 4 months old, living in an incubator, and they're fine. Okay, so that's a evidence, right there. Okay, so they will live and run about. All right, verse 22, planted fields will suddenly become bare, and full barns will suddenly become empty. So this is a future prophecy. Okay, planted fields will suddenly become bare. If you look at what's going on with the farmers over here in Babylon the Great, they are lacking funding from the federal government. Those subsidies are starting to wane, okay, which means to decrease. Okay, so there is a national, even an international emergency, right? Because money is devalued. Okay, well, what they call money is really currency, right? Because the people are actually the value. All right. so goes the ruler, so goes the nation. Okay, so you have an unstable administrations at play, at hand, right? The earth is given into the hand of the wicked once again, okay? It says, and full barns will suddenly become empty. So full barns can also go into your stores, because a barn is a storage area for what? Produce, livestock, so on and so forth. So pretty soon here, you're going to see store shelves empty. And it's already happened. They had a precursor leading up to it in 2020 during the pandemic. Okay, people were fighting over water and tissue. You know, they were supposedly in short supply because of the supply shock and logistics due to the pestilence that took place. Okay, it says verse 23. Then the trumpet. That's just the beginning. That's, like I say, it's a precursor. It's like a warning of things to come. Okay, it says then the trumpet will sound, and sudden terror will grip the heart of everyone when they hear it. Okay, all right. So who's blowing the trumpet? You know, none other than Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai and his men. Okay, it says, friends, and this truth is going out because, listen, just like the spiritual darkness, like the spiritual Satan, his physical counterpart is the Edomites. You know, that NATO, the EU, the so-called white T-man on the earth that rules the earth. They're afraid. It says in the preceding scriptures that, you know, they would shake and tremble in fear. Okay, it says friends will fight like enemies. There's a lot of confusion amongst them. You know, what did the Lord say about a house that's divided? It shall not stand. Okay, can Satan cast out Satan? Right, so they're bickering and fighting. It's just like, you know, it's like an old adage where the ancient giants in the old days, they pretty much slaughtered each other in their ignorance. They're dumb. Okay, so now to an extent, right? Because there's some wisdom, right? There's some knowledge, but just for the most part, spiritual darkness because of greed. Greed has consumed them, which is a transgression. Okay. It's a natural and spiritual transgression to want more than you deserve to have. And that's called greed, okay? And so greed comes, and then you got pride. Once you have attained all these things, you have great pride. Like, I don't want for anything. Why would I have to pray to the Heavenly Father when I have all my earthly desires? And this is the mindset of the West in general, okay? They're at ease. They are asleep at the wheel. And for it, you know, these great destructions are coming. Okay, it says, friends will fight like enemies, and the earth and its people will be terrified. Rivers will stop flowing and stand still for 3 hours. And that's symbolic, okay? Those who survive all these things that I have predicted will be rescued when I bring to an end this world that I created, okay? They will see those who never died but were taken up alive into heaven. Okay, so if you think, I could think of two people right now that went up into heaven. They were taken alive. That would be Enoch, written of in the scriptures. He was taken up to heaven. And then also Elijah. Elijah went up without actually dying. Okay, it says the hearts and minds of people on earth will be changed. Right? It says in the scriptures in the New Testament that they will be changed in the twinkling of an eye. Okay, they will put off the corruptible flesh, the corruptible body, and put on the incorruptible body, the immortal. Right? They will be given celestial / terrestrial bodies. Right? The 144,000 elect men will be the judges and rulers of the new earth, of the new Zion, the new kingdom, the kingdom of the Lord. Okay, when he comes back in his glory to judge this place, as we're reading here. Okay, it says the hearts and minds of people on earth will be changed. All right, evil will be destroyed and deceit eliminated. So there will be no lies. There will be no evil in the earth. Okay, faith will grow strong, corruption will be overcome, and truth, which has not produced fruit for so long, will make itself felt again. All right, so that's the heart of the message, and that is the point. Let me read that again. Faith will grow strong, corruption will be overcome, and truth, which has not produced fruit for so long, will make itself felt again. So it's a full circle moment. All right, it's a full circle moment. All right. So the intended purpose of the kingdom was initiated at the very beginning. Man and his ways being influenced by Satan, came in and corrupted and defiled the planet. We eating defiled foods. The air is defiled. The thoughts of man are continually wicked, except for the few, the 1/3 part of Israel, beginning at the 144,000 hopeful elect men of the Lord. All right, so this is a full circle moment. Faith is growing strong. Corruption is going to be overcome, and truth, which has not produced fruit for so long, will make itself felt again. All right. It says, while the voice was speaking, the ground beneath me began to rock back and forth. Right. All right. It reminds me of a precept that says the earth will rock to and fro like a drunkard. Okay. Verse 30. Then the angel said to me, "These are the things that I have come to show you tonight. Now, if you will pray and fast for 7 more days, I will come back and tell you even greater things." So I'm gonna end it right there. And as I stated in previously, Lord's willing, Abaratazah, that this is edifying, and that I hope that this sparks your interest to look into the scriptures, and I hope that you're of the election. I hope that the Heavenly Father, while Yahweh Shai, has you among the election, okay, sealed, if you're an Israelite, because salvation is only for the Israelites. If you are any of the heathen, you won't believe this anyway, okay? So with that being said, peace and salutation to the hopeful elect, the fellow Akim out here laboring in this truth for the spirit in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, whom we give all the praises, honor, and glory to. To the next one, it's your brother Tasab Ban Yahweh. Shalom.